The rain-slick streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium glow of street lamps as Elias Rivera watched Wyatt Harlan's taillights vanish into the night, each red blink a final punctuation on 5 years of borrowed dreams. His chest heaved like a bellows starved of air, the kind of ache that starts in the gut and claws its way up, leaving him doubled over on the cracked sidewalk of their shared apartment stoop in Capitol Hill. "I gave you my goddamn bones," Elias whispered to the empty air, the words dissolving into the downpour, but it was the silence that answered, the one that had been growing between them for months, now vast enough to swallow him whole. Elias stumbled back inside, the door clicking shut like a judge's gavel. The apartment smelled of Wyatt's cologne mixed with the faint, acrid tang of betrayal, every corner a battlefield of memories. The thrift store couch where they'd first confessed their fears under the flicker of a single bulb, the kitchen counter scarred from late-night meals scraped together after double shifts. He collapsed onto the bed, sheets still rumpled from the argument that had erupted like a storm off Puget Sound. Wyatt's voice echoed in his skull, sharp as shattered glass. "Finn's always been the one who got away, Elias. I thought I could outrun it, but, God, I can't. Finn." The name alone was a ghost, a specter from Wyatt's Texas youth that Elias had tried to exorcise with every late-night drive along the waterfront, every whispered promise in the dim light of dawn. But ghosts don't die easy, especially not when they wear the face of first love. Elias Rivera had never been the type to chase rainbows. Born in the sun-baked sprawl of East Los Angeles to a seamstress mother and a mechanic father who dreamed in bilingual curses, he'd clawed his way north on sheer grit. At 23, fresh out of community college with a graphic design degree clutched like a talisman, he'd landed in San Francisco's foggy embrace, hustling freelance gigs that paid in ramen and regret. That's where he met Wyatt Harlan, or at least the version of him that Seattle would later claim. Wyatt was a transplant from the dusty plains of Lubbock, Texas, all broad shoulders and easy drawl, with eyes the color of storm clouds rolling over the Gulf. They'd collided at a dive bar in the Mission District, Wyatt nursing a whiskey after a botched job interview, Elias sketching strangers on a napkin to forget his own mounting debts. What started as a spark in the haze of cigarette smoke and jukebox blues ignited into something fiercer. Wyatt was running from shadows, his family's Bible-thumping disapproval of the sin that made him kiss boys in secret, the weight of a construction gig that left his hands calloused and his spirit bruised. Elias saw the hunger in him, the same one that had driven him from LA's concrete veins to the Bay's restless tides. "You're more than this," Elias had told him that first night, tracing the veins on Wyatt's forearm like mapping a new world. And just like that, they built one together. Elias shelved his solo dreams, pitching in on Wyatt's wild idea. A small contracting firm specializing in eco-friendly renovations for Seattle's tech boom. It meant uprooting, Elias quitting his steady agency job, liquidating his meager savings, following Wyatt north to the Emerald City where the rains washed everything clean, or so they promised. Seattle welcomed them with open arms and closed fists. The city was a labyrinth of glass towers and hidden alleys, where hipsters sipped oat milk lattes amid the ghosts of grunge legends. They settled in a walk-up in Capitol Hill, walls thin enough to hear neighbors' heartbreaks, the Space Needle a distant sentinel on clear days. Elias threw himself into the business, hammer and heart renovations, designing logos that popped with verdant greens and rustic blues, cold-calling clients until his voice cracked. Wyatt swung the hammers, his Texas strength turning crumbling Victorians into open-concept havens for young couples fleeing the suburbs. For a while, it worked. Mornings blurred into stolen kisses over black coffee, evenings into tangled limbs under threadbare quilts. Elias learned the cadence of Wyatt's laughter, the way his drawl thickened when he was tired, the soft vulnerability that surfaced after a beer or two. But cracks spiderwebbed in unseen places. Wyatt's silences grew longer, his gaze drifting to his phone like a man scanning horizons for escape. Elias chalked it up to the grind, the endless permitting wars with the city, the winter that pressed in like a shroud. He doubled down, taking side gigs illustrating book covers for indie presses, funneling every cent back into the firm. "We're building something real here," he'd say, pressing his forehead to Wyatt's, inhaling the scent of sawdust and sweat. Wyatt would nod, pull him close, but his hugs felt like farewells in disguise. The unraveling began in earnest last spring, when Wyatt's high school reunion invite arrived like a grenade in the mailbox. Finn Caldwell, the golden boy from Lubbock, the one who'd stolen Wyatt's heart at 16 in the bleachers of a Friday night football game, under the merciless glare of stadium lights. They'd been each other's secret, fumbling through awakenings in the back of pickups, until Finn's family uprooted for Austin, and the distance turned love to ash. Wyatt had never fully shaken it. Elias knew that from the old photos tucked in a boot box, faces blurred by time but eyes sharp with what-ifs. Elias tried to play it cool when Wyatt mentioned the trip. "Go," he said, forcing a grin over takeout pho in their kitchen. "Catch up. Tell him about the solar panels we installed on that Queen and Flip." But inside, dread coiled like fog off the sound. Wyatt returned changed, restless, his laugh brittle, checking his messages with a frequency that bordered on compulsion. Finn had moved to Portland, just a ferry ride away, now a craft brewer with a beard and a life polished by success. Texts turned to calls, calls to coffee runs across the border. Elias felt the ground shifting, but he anchored himself with denial. He planned a surprise weekend in the San Juans, booking a cabin on Orcas Island where the trees whispered secrets to the sea. They kayaked at dawn, Wyatt's paddle slicing water like a confession unspoken. That night, by a fire that crackled against the chill, Elias laid it bare. "I know about Finn, and I get it, first times carve deep. But we're here now. We've got this." Wyatt's face crumpled, the firelight carving shadows that aged him a decade. "I love you, Elias, more than I knew how to at first. But Finn, he's the echo I can't silence." The fight that followed was a tempest, words hurled like driftwood in a gale. Elias accused, Wyatt defended, until exhaustion left them staring at ceilings stained by leaks. Days blurred into a tense truce, Wyatt sleeping on the couch, Elias sketching feverishly to drown the hurt. Then came the ultimatum, delivered over cold cereal one gray morning. "I need space to figure this out." Space. The word tasted like ash, but Elias nodded, because what else was there? He packed Wyatt's duffel with mechanical precision, folding shirts that still carried his scent, zipping away the life they'd stitched together. And now, alone in the apartment that echoed like a tomb, Elias Rivera faced the wreckage. The rain hammered the window panes, a relentless drumbeat to his unraveling. He rose, legs unsteady, and crossed to the mirror above the dresser. A thrift find with chips in the silvering. His reflection stared back. 28 years old, olive skin sallow under fluorescent hum, brown eyes ringed with the purple of sleepless nights. The man who'd crossed states for love looked like a stranger, hollowed out. How had it come to this? Sacrificing his career's fragile roots in California, his family's Sunday barbecues in Boyle Heights, the anonymity of solo nights scrolling Grindr for fleeting warmth. All for Wyatt, who now chased a phantom across state lines. Elias sank to the floor, back against the bed frame, and let the sobs come, raw, guttural things that shook his frame. Memories flooded unbidden. Their first Seattle winter, huddled in a food truck line for banh mi, snowflakes melting on Wyatt's lashes as he stole a bite from Elias's wrapper. The day Hammer and Hart landed its first big contract, toasting with cheap Prosecco on the fire escape, city lights winking approval. Wyatt's hand in his during Pride, rainbow flags snapping in the breeze, a momentary defiance against the world's indifferent grind. But beneath the romance lurked the cost. Elias had buried his own ambitions, the novel he'd half-written about a queer Chicano artist navigating the art world's whitewashed halls. Pages yellowing in a drawer, dreams deferred for a partnership that proved as flimsy as rain on glass. Anger flickered, hot and unfamiliar. "You bastard," he muttered, fists clenching, not just at Wyatt but at himself for believing love could be a ledger balanced by sacrifice, for thinking vulnerability was currency rather than a risk. The clock on the nightstand blinked 2:17 a.m., indifferent to his storm. Elias forced himself up, splashing water on his face in the bathroom sink, the porcelain cool against fevered skin. He couldn't stay here marinating in ghosts. Grabbing his jacket, a Barber knockoff from a Fremont market stall, he stepped back into the night. Capitol Hill pulsed with after-hours life. A drag queen's laughter spilling from a speakeasy door, couples entwined under umbrellas like defiance against the deluge. Elias walked without direction, boots splashing puddles that mirrored fractured streetlights. Pike Place Market loomed ahead, shuttered stalls silent sentinels to daytime chaos. He leaned against a lamppost, inhaling the briny tang of the waterfront, watching ferries cut wakes toward Bainbridge. A memory surfaced. Wyatt proposing they buy a boat someday, sail to Alaska where the auroras danced like promises. Lies all of it, or half-truths, twisted by time. Footsteps approached, hesitant. "You okay, man? Looks like the rain's winning tonight." Elias turned to find a stranger, mid-30s maybe, with a wool beanie pulled low over damp curls, a messenger bag slung across a frame lean from city miles. The guy's eyes were kind, hazel flecked with concern, face weathered like driftwood. Seattle's unofficial uniform. Flannel under a parka, boots scuffed from endless treks. Elias wiped his sleeve across his eyes, summoning a shrug. "Just another casualty." The stranger chuckled softly, no mockery in it. "Aren't we all? Name's Theo. Theo Langford. I run a little bookstore down in Fremont. Lost Souls and Forgotten Tomes." He extended a hand, calloused from shelving heavy volumes. Elias took it, the grip steadying something inside him. Elias Rivera, graphic designer by trade, heartbreak connoisseur by accident. They fell into step, the rain a shared umbrella of conversation. Theo talked of his shop, Raven's Nest Books, a haven crammed with queer lit and occult curios, walls papered in faded posters of Ginsberg and Baldwin. "It's not much, but it's mine," he said, voice laced with quiet pride. Elias found himself opening up in fragments. The move from L.A., the firm that was Wyatt's baby more than his, the email from Finn's number that Wyatt had left open on the laptop like a suicide note. Theo listened without interruption, nodding at the right pauses, his presence a balm against the night's edge. By the time they reached the Fremont Bridge, the downpour had eased to mist. Theo paused, fishing a card from his wallet, embossed with a raven in flight. "If you need an escape, doors always open. No judgments, just stories." Elias pocketed it, a small weight against his chest. "Thanks. For the walk. For not making me feel like a fool." Theo's smile was crooked, genuine. "Fools are the ones who never risk it. You're just mid-story." He clapped Elias's shoulder and melted into the fog, leaving Elias alone with the burble of the canal below. Mid-story. The words lingered as Elias trudged home, the apartment less tomb-like now, more like a pause. Sleep came fitful, dreams tangled with Wyatt's drawl and Theo's easy cadence. Dawn broke slate gray, coffee brewing like a ritual of survival. Elias booted up his laptop, the hammer and heart logo staring back. A hammer crossed with a heartbeat line, his design. He fired off an email to their accountant, freezing Wyatt's access, the click final as a door slam. Then, on impulse, he opened a blank canvas. Not for clients, but for himself. A sketch of a man adrift on choppy waters, hands outstretched not in plea, but in release. The lines flowed, raw and unpolished, the first cracks of light in his darkness. Days bled into a rhythm of deliberate motion. Elias sublet the spare room to a barista named Lena, her laughter a counterpoint to his silences. He hit the gym in Ballard, weights clanging like therapy, muscles remembering their strength. Freelance poured in, album art for a local indie band. Their sound grungy folk laced with queer anthems. Evenings found him at Raven's Nest, Theo's domain a cocoon of musty pages and herbal tea. They'd talk for hours, Elias unspooling his LA youth, the tamales his abuela pressed into his palms before he left. The way his father's silence on his coming out spoke louder than sermons. Theo shared his own scars. A divorce from a woman he'd married to fix himself. The slow bloom of self-acceptance in Seattle's accepting arms. One night, amid stacks of Audre Lorde, Theo leaned close. "You ever think about what you'd build if it was just you?" Elias traced the spine of a worn copy of Giovanni's Room. Baldwin's words a mirror to his ache. "All the time, but fear's a hell of a architect." Theo's hand brushed his, lingering. Not pressure, just possibility, a spark in the dim lamplight. Wyatt's return shattered the fragile peace. A knock at noon, rain pattering like hesitant applause. He stood there, duffel slung over one shoulder, eyes red-rimmed but resolute. "Can we talk?" The apartment felt smaller with him in it, air thick. Over lukewarm tea, Wyatt spilled. Finn was real, vital, the missing piece. They'd spent weeks in Portland, rekindling under Willamette Oaks, and it fit in ways Seattle never had. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Elias. You saved me, pulled me from that hole back in Frisco. But I can't pretend anymore." Elias listened, heart a stone in his throat. No screams, no pleas, just a nod. The weight of sacrifices tallied in silence. "Take the firm," he said finally. "It's yours. I designed the dreams. You built the bones." Wyatt protested, but Elias waved it off, the gesture costing more than he knew. As Wyatt left, a second time, Elias felt the sever clean, like lancing a wound. That night, he walked to Theo's shop, the Raven sign swinging in the breeze. Theo looked up from ledger, sensing the shift. "Rough." Elias leaned on the counter, exhaustion etching his features. "Finale. Or intermission." Theo closed the book, rounding the desk. "Want to get out of here? There's a dive in Wallingford. Karaoke, bad whiskey, worse singers." They went, the bar a haze of neon and nostalgia. Elias belted out Springsteen, voice cracking on Thunder Road. Theo joining in harmony, their shoulders brushing. Laughter bubbled up, unbidden, a release. Back at Theo's loft above the shop, exposed brick and bookshelves groaning under tomes. Conversation turned intimate. Theo's fingers traced Elias's jaw, tentative. "If this is too soon." But Elias pulled him in, lips meeting in a kiss that tasted of possibility, not promise. It wasn't fireworks, but a steady burn. Hands exploring with the care of those who'd known loss. Theo's body was maps of freckles and faint scars. His touch reverent, drawing out gasps Elias thought forgotten. They moved together slow, sheets tangling like vines, whispers weaving futures unwritten. Dawn found them entwined, Seattle's light filtering through blinds, painting their skin in gold. But love's not linear, and Elias's healing twisted. Doubts crept in whispers. Was this rebound or rebirth? Theo sensed it, pulling back one crisp autumn morning over pancakes in his kitchenette. "I'm not him, Elias, and you're not chasing ghosts with me." The words stung true, forcing Elias to confront the mirror again. Not the broken man of months past, but one scarred yet standing. He dove into his novel, pages filling with a protagonist not unlike himself. Javier, a designer fleeing betrayal for the Northwest's wilds, finding identity in ink and rain. Theo read drafts, his feedback sharp yet kind, their bond deepening in shared creation. Holidays approached, Thanksgiving a specter. Elias flew home to L.A., the Boyle Heights streets alive with marigold scents and family clamor. His mother hugged him fierce, eyes probing. "Mijo, you look lighter." Over pozole steaming with hominy, he confessed fragments, the love lost, the one budding. His father grunted approval, a rare bridge across silences. Back in Seattle, Wyatt's shadow lingered in legal snags. The firm contested his handover, lawyers circling like gulls. Confrontation came in a coffee shop off Broadway, Wyatt haggard, Finn absent. "I didn't think you'd let go so easy." Elias met his gaze steady. "It wasn't easy, but holding on, that was killing me." Wyatt nodded, defeat softening his edges. Finn and I, it's good, real. Wish that for you. A truce, fragile as frost. Winter gripped the city, holidays twinkling amid chill. Theo and Elias hosted a solstice gathering at Raven's Nest. Friends from the bar scene, Lena with her guitar, strumming carols twisted queer. Amid eggnog and laughter, Elias proposed to Theo not with rings, but words. Build with me, not despite the breaks, but because of them. Theo's yes was a kiss in the stacks, fierce and sure. Spring thawed the sound, cherry blossoms dusting Capitol Hill like confetti. Elias's novel sold to a small press, cover his own design. A heart hammer against stormy skies. Launch night packed the shop, Wyatt even showing with Finn. A nod from across the room, closure's quiet grace. As Elias signed books, Theo's hand in his, he felt the question of the title dissolve. Yes, love, not once, but again, forged in fire and rain. Yet the story lingered, a postscript in every heartbeat. Sacrifice taught resilience, betrayal the art of release. In Seattle's endless drizzle, Elias Rivera found not just another love, but his own, unyielding, authentic, a testament to the queer heart's infinite reinvention. The ferry horn blared across Elliott Bay as Elias Rivera gripped the railing, salt spray mingling with the mist on his face, the city skyline receding like a half-remembered dream. It had been 3 months since Wyatt's second departure, 3 months of stitching wounds with threadbare hope, and now this. A solo pilgrimage to Bainbridge Island, Theo's card burning a hole in his pocket alongside the weight of unspoken fears. The water churned below, gray and unforgiving, mirroring the tumult in his chest. Could he trust this new rhythm, or was it just the echo of old heartbeats? Theo Langford had slipped into Elias's life like fog rolling off the Olympics, unobtrusive yet enveloping. Their nights at Raven's Nest evolved from casual debriefs to something deeper. Shared shifts shelving poetry collections, Theo's voice reading aloud from Whitman's Leaves while Elias sketched ravens in the margins. Theo was 41, a decade Elias's senior, with a past etched in the fine lines around his eyes. Divorce papers from a marriage born of denial, a decade in corporate drudgery before reclaiming his soul in ink and narrative. Books saved me, he'd say, fingers lingering on a first edition Call Me by Your Name. Taught me that desire isn't a detour, it's the damn road. Elias admired that steadiness, the way Theo navigated vulnerability without armor. But admiration bred caution. After Wyatt, trust felt like walking a frayed plank over abyss. Their first real date, a hike in Discovery Park, ferns unfurling underfoot like secrets, ended in a kiss that promised more, but Elias pulled back at Theo's door, excuses tumbling like loose change. Slow, he murmured, hating the plea in his voice. Theo nodded, no pressure in his gaze, just the quiet understanding of one who'd rebuilt from rubble. Work became Elias's anchor. Hammer and Heart was Wyatt's now, legally untangled after a tense mediation where lawyers dissected their shared equity like coroners at autopsy. Elias walked away with a modest buyout, enough to breathe, and funneled it into his own venture. Ink and Anchor Designs, a freelance outfit blending graphics with storytelling, targeting queer authors and small presses. His portfolio bloomed online, commissions trickling from Portland poets and LA zine makers. Late nights in the apartment. Now his alone, Lena's sublet a lifeline of rent and camaraderie. He lost himself in vectors and vignettes, the screen's glow a surrogate for intimacy. Lena noticed the shift, her barista wisdom sharp over shared joints on the fire escape. You're glowing, Eli, but it's flickering. That bookseller. He's got you spooked. Elias exhaled smoke rings toward the stars, rare pinpricks through light pollution. Wyatt took the map I drew for us. What if Theo erases mine? Lena's laugh was earthy, grounding. Then you redraw it, Poppy. Bigger, bolder. Emboldened, Elias invited Theo to a gallery opening in Pioneer Square. Brick vaults humming with the clink of wine glasses and murmurs over abstract canvases splashed in primaries. Theo arrived in a corduroy blazer, hair tamed but eyes wild with curiosity. They wandered Exhibit's hand in tentative brush, Theo pausing at a piece titled Fractured Selves. Shards of mirrored glass embedded in clay, reflecting viewers in multiplicity. Like us, Theo said softly, his reflection overlapping Elias's in the fragments. Pieces that fit without forcing. The after-party spilled into a jazz club, saxophone wails weaving through cigarette haze. Over bourbon neat, Theo shared a story Elias hadn't pried for. His coming out at 30, post-divorce, in a dive bar much like this, kissing a stranger to taste freedom. Tasted like regret at first, fear of the fallout. But then, liberation. Elias leaned in, the booth's vinyl creaking. And now, Theo's thumb traced the rim of his glass. Now I want tastes that linger. With you, if you'll let me. They left arm in arm. The walk home a meander through Belltown's neon veins. At Elias's door, hesitation dissolved in the porch light's amber. Theo's kiss was deliberate, hands framing Elias's face with the reverence of a curator unveiling artifact. Inside, clothes shed like old skins, bodies mapping unfamiliar terrain. Theo's touch was patient, eliciting shivers Elias thought dormant, whispers in his ear like annotations to a favorite text. Beautiful, Theo breathed against his collarbone, and for the first time in months Elias believed it, not as flattery but fact. Mornings after were tentative domesticity. Theo brewing pour-over from beans roasted in Georgetown, Elias sketching while vinyl spun Coltrane. But shadows loomed. A package arrived midweek. Wyatt's old boot box, forwarded from the firm, photos spilling like confetti from a cracked piñata. Finn and Wyatt at a Texas rodeo, arms slung casual. A Polaroid of them in high school, grins defiant against faded bleachers. Elias's stomach knotted, the past intruding like uninvited guest. He confronted Theo over dinner at a faux spot in the ID, broth steaming between them. What if I'm still hauling baggage? Theo set down his chopsticks, gaze steady. We're all porters, Elias. Question is, do we share the load or hoard it? The honesty disarmed, leading to a night of unfiltered truths. Elias's fear of fading into Wyatt's footnote, Theo's dread of being the safe choice after wilder flames. Vulnerability bridged them, intimacy deepening in the aftermath. Lazy Sundays in bed, Theo's fingers combing Elias's waves as they plotted a road trip to the Olympics. But Seattle's undercurrents pulled. Elias's novel draft hit a wall, Javier's arc mirroring his own too closely. Betrayal's sting stalling reinvention. Therapy entered the equation. A queer counselor in Queen and named Marcus. Sessions in a sunlit office overlooking the locks. Sacrifice isn't noble if it's self-erasure, Marcus said one Tuesday, his voice a gentle probe. Elias journaled after, pages filling with manifestos on boundaries, self as sovereign. Theo supported without smothering, gifting a leather-bound notebook embossed with an anchor. Their bond tested in small fires. A canceled plans when Elias buried in deadlines, Theo's ex-wife's surprise visit stirring old jealousies. Each flare-up forged stronger. Arguments ending in make-up sex that left them breathless, laughter, renewed. Summer crested, festivals blooming across the city. They caught Bumbershoot, throngs pulsing to indie sets under the monorail's arc. Amid mosh pits and food trucks slinging lobster rolls, Elias proposed a whim. Let's get ink. Matching, but not matching. Our stories intertwined. Theo grinned, leading to a parlor in Fremont, needles buzzing like fate. Elias chose a raven in flight over waves, Theo a compass rose etched with coordinates to their first hike. The sting was cathartic, skin blooming red and raw, a permanent claim. Fall whispered in with amber leaves carpeting the arboretum paths. Elias's novel query letters yielded a bite, an editor at a Seattle indie house, drawn to the Chicano lens on queer exile. Revisions consumed him. Theo beta reading with marginalia that made him snort. This line hits like bad espresso. Sharpen it. Gratitude swelled, manifesting in a surprise weekend at a cabin in Index, Snoqualmie River rushing nearby. There, under star-pricked skies, bonfire crackling, Elias voiced the unvoiced. Wyatt was my everything. You're my more. Theo pulled him close, flannel warm against chill. And you're my now. Messy, magnificent now. Yet climax brewed in betrayals past. Wyatt called unannounced, voice thick over the line. Finn left, said I was stuck in neutral. Chasing what we had, not what we could. Elias froze, phone slick in palm. What do you want, Wyatt? A pause. Heavy. You. Always you if you'd. Rage and pity warred. Elias hanging up mid-sentence, heart hammering. He drove to Theo's, rain sheeting windshield, bursting through the door with confessions tumbling. He called. Wants back what I gave. Theo held him through the torrent, no questions, just presence. You're not a revolving door, Elias. You're the whole damn house. Resolution came in layers. Elias blocked Wyatt's number, therapy sessions evolving to integration, honoring the love without chains. His novel finalized, acceptance letter arriving like sunrise, publication in spring, launch at Raven's Nest. Theo's pride shone, their partnership a quiet force. Winter solstice neared, the shops tree-strung with page garlands. Gathering friends, mulled wine flowing, Elias raised a toast. To fractures that let light in, Theo's eyes met his, promise unspoken. As snow dusted the city, a rarity, magic, Elias stood on the waterfront, Theo's hand in his gloved one. The question of love anew, affirmed, not in grand gestures, but the steady pulse of shared breath. In America's Northwest wilds, he'd found not replacement, but reclamation. Self, love, the infinite story unfolding. Elias Rivera's fingers trembled over the keyboard in the dim glow of his laptop, the cursor blinking like a hesitant heartbeat on the final page of his novel. It was late October now, the kind of Seattle evening where the rain didn't fall so much as hang, a veil between him and the world outside his window in Capitol Hill. Theo's loft had become a second skin these past months. But tonight Elias craved solitude. The apartment's familiar creaks a cradle for this culmination. Waves of Anchor, the manuscript's title, sprawled across the screen. A tale of Javier, the fictional echo of Elias himself, navigating betrayal's undertow toward shores uncharted. Hitting save felt like exhaling after a plunge, the weight lifting just enough to breathe. Theo had been his North Star through revisions, his annotations in the margins a blend of critique and caress. This vulnerability? Razor sharp. Lean in. At 41, Theo Langford carried wisdom like well-worn leather. His bookstore a repository not just of books but of lives reshaped by narrative. They'd spent countless evenings in the back room of Raven's Nest, surrounded by teetering stacks of manuscripts, debating character arcs over glasses of Pinot from the Columbia Valley. Theo's touch had evolved from tentative to territorial, a hand on Elias's lower back during author events, lips brushing his temple in quiet moments. Yet beneath the ease lurked Elias's undercurrent of doubt. Was this solidity, or just the calm before Seattle's next squall? The call from Wyatt had been the squall's harbinger, 3 weeks prior, shattering the fragile pain of progress. Elias had been midway through a chapter, coffee cooling beside him, when his phone buzzed with an unknown Portland prefix. Wyatt's voice, roughened by whiskey or regret, had poured through like oil on water. Eli, it's me. Don't hang up. Elias's grip tightened, knuckles paling. What, Wyatt? Firm stuff. A beat, then the flood. Finn's abrupt exit, suitcase packed under harvest moon. Accusations of emotional stasis hurled like horseshoes at a county fair. He said I'm living in rear view, always glancing back at us, at what we built. But God, Elias, it was you who built it. The heart in Hammer and Heart? That was yours. Elias had paced the kitchen, linoleum cold under socks, memories assaulting like flashbacks in a noir reel. Wyatt's plea twisted the knife. Come to Portland. One weekend. See if there's still fire. Fire. The word ignited fury. Elias's response a hiss through clenched teeth. You don't get to strike matches after torching the house, Wyatt. I rebuilt without you, me, not us. He ended the call, thumb savage on the screen, then hurled the phone onto the counter, screen cracking like his resolve. Tears came hot, unbidden, but this time laced with steel. He texted Theo, "Need you. Now." Theo arrived in 20 minutes, parka dripping, enveloping Elias in arms that smelled of newsprint and sage. That night marked a pivot. Curled on Theo's couch amid dog-eared copies of The Price of Salt, Elias unburdened the call, words tumbling like unraveling yarn. Theo listened, fingers carding through Elias's hair. No interruptions until the silence settled. "He's a chapter closed, Elias. You're writing the volume." They made love then, urgent yet tender, Theo's body a rebuttal to doubt. Strong lines and soft yields, gasps mingling with affirmations whispered against sweat-damp skin. "Mine," Theo murmured. Not possessive but present, sealing the fracture. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting the city in russet and gold. Elias's freelance surged, ink and anchor landing a contract for a queer graphic novel series. Illustrations of intertwined bodies against urban backdrops. His style blending Chicano motifs with Pacific Northwest grit. Checks deposited. He splurged on a vintage Vespa, zipping through traffic to Theo's shop, helmet hair wild as his heart. Their routine solidified. Tuesday markets at Pike Place, haggling for Dungeness crab. Thursday runs along the Burke-Gilman Trail, breath sinking to pounding feet. Sundays lost in bed, plotting escapes to the San Juans. But conflict brewed in subtler veins. Theo's ex, Rebecca, resurfaced. Not with malice, but maternal concern, emailing about their shared daughter, Clara, now 16 and questioning her own identity. "She's reading Butler," Rebecca wrote, asking about her dad's phase. "Could you talk to her?" Theo confided over dim sum in Chinatown. Chopsticks paused midair. "It's not a phase but explaining. It's dredging the riverbed." Elias squeezed his hand under the table. "You're the map she needs. Show her the whole terrain." The visit unfolded over a weekend in Tacoma. Rebecca's craftsman home a time capsule of their union. Framed wedding photos softened by dust. Clara was a whirlwind. Dyed blue hair, Doc Martens scuffed from skate parks, eyes sharp as Theo's. Over vegan tacos, she grilled him. Was Mom the experiment, or was hiding the experiment? Theo's response was measured. A story of young fear yielding to late bloom. Elias sat peripheral, offering sketches of Clara as a punk oracle, easing the ice. By Sunday's end, hugs exchanged, Theo exhaled in the car. That was harder than any divorce decree. Elias drove, hand on his thigh. "You did it with grace. That's your superpower." Gratitude manifested in gestures. Elias curating a Clara shelf at Raven's Nest. Titles on trans icons and coming-of-age tales. Theo reciprocated with a custom bookshelf for Elias's apartment. Shelves carved with anchors and ravens intertwining. Their intimacy evolved, explorations venturing into uncharted. Theo's quiet dominance in silk scarves binding wrists. Elias's laughter dissolving into moans under candlelight. Vulnerability was their aphrodisiac, confessions traded like currency. Theo's fantasy of a life untethered to pasts. Elias's dream of exhibiting his art in LA's queer galleries. November's chill bit deeper. Holidays looming like relatives uninvited. Elias's family beckoned from Boyle Heights, his mother's voice crackling over FaceTime. "Mijo, bring your novio. We want to meet the one who makes you smile like abuela's tamales." Anxiety nodded, introducing Theo meant bridging worlds. His Mexican-American roots against Theo's Waspy Oregon lineage. Theo sensed it, proposing a preemptive dinner at his loft. Pozole simmered slow, Theo's attempt at authenticity earning Elias's teasing. "Needs more hominy, but heart's there." They role-played the meat, laughter dissolving nerves. The flight south was turbulence-free, LA's sprawl a sun-drenched contrast to Seattle's pallor. Boyle Heights buzzed. Murals vibrant on stucco walls. Ticarius steaming with Al Pastor. Elias's mother, Rosa enveloped Theo in a hug scented with cilantro. Father Manuel grunting approval over beers. Siblings ribbed gently. Gringo in the house. But warmth prevailed. Stories of Elias's childhood spilling amid plates of mole. Theo held his own, sharing bookstore tales, even attempting Spanish phrases that drew chuckles. As they departed, Rosa pressed tamales into hands. Quiet, Theo. He's our son. Don't let clouds dim him. Re-entry to Seattle was balm, snow flurrying rare and welcome. Elias's novel acceptance evolved to edits, the editor's notes pushing deeper. Amplify Javier's cultural tether. Make the exile visceral. Revisions unearthed buried pains. Wyatt's casual erasure of Elias's heritage in their partnership. Favors dismissed as exotic flair. Channeling it fueled pages. Javier's arc peaking in a raw confrontation. Reclaiming agency through art. Crescendo struck mid-December. Wyatt appeared at Raven's Nest unannounced. Collar turned against sleet. Face gaunt as winter bark. Customers milled. But Theo's glance signaled Elias from the reading nook. Eli, Wyatt started, voice low. I know I have no right, but Finn's gone for good. Said I'm poison ivy, choking what grows. Desperation etched him, hands wringing like prayer cloths. We were lightning, you and me. Let's chase it again. Elias's pulse thundered, old loves clashing like cymbals. Theo hovered discreet, giving space. Words rose, steady. Lightning strikes once, Wyatt. Leaves scorch. I'm building with stone now, slow, but standing. Wyatt's eyes welled. Nod defeated. Fair. You deserve that. He left, bell tinkling final. Theo's arm slipping around Elias's waist. Proud of you, Theo whispered. Kiss sealing solidarity. Solstice party at the shop was catharsis. Garlands of book pages, cider mulled with cinnamon, Lena's guitar strumming jingle bells reimagined as queer carol. Friends toasted Elias's impending launch, Clara video calling with blue-streaked cheers. Amid revelry, Theo pulled Elias to the rooftop, city lights sprawling below. Marry this life with me, he said. Not ring but resolve, snowflakes catching in lashes. Elias's yes was fervent, bodies pressing in celebration, the world a blur of white and wonder. As Waves of Anchor went to print, Elias traced the cover. His design, raven soaring over swells. Betrayal's scar faded to silver, love's new vein pulsing strong. In the Northwest's embrace, he'd answered the heart's query. Yes, again and deeper, a narrative eternally rewritten. January's grip on Seattle was iron-fisted. The city blanketed in a rare frost that turned the sound to fractured glass under dawn's pallid light. Elias Rivera stood at the window of Theo's loft, mug of chicory coffee steaming in his hands, watching barges carve paths through the ice floes like stubborn memories refusing to thaw. It had been 6 months since Wyatt's final plea at Raven's Nest, 6 months of Theo Langford's steady orbit pulling Elias from grief's gravity. Yet doubt, that insidious fog, clung. Was this love's true north, or just shelter from the storm? The novel's galleys arrived yesterday, Waves of Anchor bound in matte black with his raven-emblazoned cover, a tangible talisman against uncertainty. Theo stirred behind him, sheets rustling like whispered reassurances. At 41, he moved with the unhurried grace of one who'd mapped his scars, rising to wrap arms around Elias's waist, chin resting on shoulder. Penny for the thoughts, or are they chapters? His voice was gravelly with sleep, breath warm against Elias's neck. Elias leaned back, the solidity grounding. Launch jitters, and feels too good, like tempting the fates. Theo's chuckle vibrated through them. Fates are lousy editors. We write our own revisions. Their partnership had deepened into domestic poetry. Mornings trading sections of The Sunday Stranger. Afternoons Elias at his drafting table in the loft's corner. Theo downstairs curating window displays of winter reads. The Song of Achilles front and center. Evenings blurred into rituals. Cooking paella with chorizo smuggled from LA visits. Theo's attempts at salsa drawing Elias's laughter. Movie nights on the sagging couch, Brokeback Mountain revisited not for ache but affirmation. Intimacy wove seamless. Theo's fingers tracing Elias's new tattoo in the shower's steam. Water beating like dew. Elias straddling Theo on the rug. Slow grinds building to crescendos that left them boneless, sated. But beneath harmony, fissures tested. Elias's freelance boomed, ink and anchor securing a collab with a Portland collective on a mural series. Vibrant queer icons splashed across warehouse walls. The commute across the border strained. Late nights sketching by headlamp in Theo's kitchen, while he waited with reheated soup. "You're spreading wings," Theo said one exhausted midnight, pride masking fatigue. "Don't forget the nest." Elias heard the undercurrent, fear of distance echoing Theo's divorce-era abandonment, and countered with presence. Canceling a gig to surprise Theo at a book fair in Tacoma, hands full of pupusas from a food truck. Family wove tighter threads. Rosa's packages arrived bi-weekly, empanadas frozen solid, letters in looping script urging grandkids, the adopted kind, Mijo. Theo dove in, video calls with Clara evolving to in-person. A weekend in Seattle where she crashed the loft, the three of them baking snickerdoodles gone gloriously wrong, flour-dusted chaos bonding uncle figures. Clara's questions turned profound. "How'd you know Theo was it, Eli?" After the ex. Elias pondered, honest. When the silences felt full, not empty. Spring teased early, crocuses piercing soil in the Fremont tulip fields. Elias's launch loomed, April 15th at Raven's Nest. Shelves cleared for a signing station draped in nautical blues. Invites went out. Lena with her crew, Marcus the therapist bearing wisdom, even Rebecca with cautious warmth. Wyatt's name hovered, unscribed. Closure's gift was absence. Yet betrayal's echo resounded in unexpected quarters. A client email arrived mid-March. Curt, project scrapped due to creative misalignment. Code for Elias's queer-infused designs clashing with the firm's conservative board. Rage boiled, Elias slamming his tablet, shards of screen mirroring his splintered confidence. "They saw me, really saw, and flinched." Theo found him on the fire escape, knees to chest, rain mingling with tears. "Their loss is the world's gain," Theo said, pulling him inside to the workroom. Together they salvaged, repurposing sketches into a zine, Queer Currents, printed on Theo's ancient press. Distribution at local cafes sold out, buzz rippling to a gallery scout. The slight catalyzed boldness. Elias pitched a solo exhibit to a Belltown space, Tides of Self. Canvases blending digital prints with acrylic washes, themes of migration, desire, reclamation. Theo championed sourcing frames from estate sales, their loft a whirlwind of turpentine and takeout. Stress peaked in petty spats. Theo's clutter invading Elias's clean lines, Elias's late nights fraying Theo's patience. One eve, words escalated. "You're retreating into work like I did post-Rebecca," Theo snapped. "And you're crowding my air," Elias fired back. Silence followed, heavy as lead, until Theo bridged. A note slipped under the bedroom door. "Sorry. Let's chart this together." Reconciliation was firelit. Bodies colliding on the rug. Apologies gasped between thrusts. Reaffirmation in every arch and sigh. Launch night dawned crystalline, cherry blossoms shedding petals like confetti. Raven's Nest overflowed. Cues snaking to the counter, air thick with bergamot from Theo's diffuser. Elias, in a crisp button-down rolled at cuffs, signed with flourish, Javier's journey resonating in readers' eyes. Tears, nods, hugs from strangers claiming kinship. Clara manned the till, blue hair a beacon. Rosa FaceTime cheers from LA, Manuel's gruff proud, sun, crackling through. Theo hovered, eyes shining, slipping Elias water between admirers. Midway the door chimed Wyatt, alone, coat dusted with travel grime. No fin, no plea, just a copy clutched like olive branch. "Heard about this. Had to come." Elias paused, pen hovering, pulse steady. "Appreciate it. Means closure." Wyatt nodded, throat working. Read the arc Javier's release? That's you. Wish I'd seen it sooner. He bought 2 copies, one for Finn, for understanding, and slipped away, ghost laid gentle. Post-launch haze. After party at a dive in Wallingford. Shots of mezcal toasting triumphs. Theo pulled Elias to the alley for air, wall rough against back, kiss devouring. You shone tonight. My author, my anchor. Elias grinned, hands roaming. You're everything. Home found them tangled, loft echoing with joy's cadence. Exhibit opening followed in May, gallery humming with collectors and critics. Tides of self drew raves. The stranger hailing Rivera's fusion of heritage and heartbreak as Pacific masterpiece. Sales trickled, enough for a down payment on studio space in Soto. Theo celebrated with a ring, simple tungsten, etched with coordinates to their hike. Slipped over dinner at Canlis, city lights winking below. Not proposal yet, promise. Elias's matching band gleamed, vow unspoken. Summer solstice brought travel. Road trip to Olympic Peninsula, tent pitched under Hoh rainforest's canopy. Days hiking moss-draped trails, nights stargazing, bodies slick under sleeping bags. Conversations delved oceanic. Theo's vision of adopting Clara part-time, Elias's of family expansion. Roots and wings, Elias mused, head on Theo's chest. That's us. Autumn's palette returned, leaves flaming. A letter from Wyatt arrived, Portland postmark, words spare. Found peace in the burn. You deserved the phoenix. Be happy. Elias shared with Theo, both exhaling relief. Betrayal transmuted to teacher, sacrifice to soil. As waves hit bestseller lists for indies, Elias penned a sequel, Javier's horizons expanding. With Theo's hand in his, walking Fremont's troll under bridges, the query dissolved. Love, not once but woven, a tapestry of scars and stars. In America's verdant fringe, Elias claimed his again. Fierce, free, forever unfolding. June's sun gilded Seattle's edges, turning the Space Needle into a golden spire piercing cerulean skies, a rarity that coaxed Elias Rivera and Theo Langford from the loft's cocoon onto a blanket in Gasworks Park. The air hummed with kite strings and distant fairies, wildflowers nodding in breeze as Elias traced patterns in the grass with a stick, abstract anchors, ravens in flight. Tides of Self-exhibit had closed 2 weeks prior, crates of unsold canvases stacked in their new Soto studio, but the momentum lingered. Commissions from LA galleries, a TEDx invite on queer artistry. Yet amid triumph, a quiet ache stirred. Not loss, but longing for permanence, the kind that withstands tempests. Theo lounged beside him, book splayed open on chest. Fun home, Bechtel's lines blurring in sun. At 42 now, his curls silvered at temples, adding gravitas to his easy smile. You're sketching again. Good sign. Elias glanced up, stick pausing. Mapping futures, ours included. Theo set the book aside, propping on elbow. Spill, artist. What's brewing behind those brown eyes? The question unlocked floodgates. Elias had been mulling since the ring exchange at Canlis. Tungsten bands glinting as promises, not vows. Family pressure simmered. Rose's not-so-subtle hints at La Boda. Manuel's gruff queries on that bookseller's intentions. Clara's visits deepened, her 17th birthday spent arcade hopping in Pike Place. Theo teaching her to bind chapbooks at the shop. You're like the dad I quiz on queer stuff, she teased. But her eyes held yearning for structure. Elias voiced it now, words tumbling. Adoption talks with Rebecca, Clara's open, and us. Rings feel like placeholders. What if we made them real? Ceremony, papers, the works. Theo's gaze softened, hand finding Elias's. Been thinking same, but queer wedding in this town? Rainbows and rain? Or elope to the islands? Laughter bubbled, planning igniting like dry tinder. Venue hunt in the San Juans, guest list blending Boyle Heights kin with Fremont familiars. Excitement tempered by realism, Theo's lingering custody negotiations, Elias's touring schedule for Waves of Anchor's paperback push. July sweltered uncharacteristically, city pools overflowing, Elliott Bay a siren for swims. They escaped to Alki Beach, towels spread amid volleyball games. Theo slathering sunscreen on Elias's back with deliberate strokes, fingers dipping lower to elicit shivers. "Tease," Elias murmured, turning to capture lips salt-kissed. Public affection, once Wyatt-era caution, now flowed free, hands intertwined on walks, stolen kisses in coffee lines. Intimacy at home escalated playfully. Role reversal nights where Elias directed Theo like a film scene, silk ties and spotlit skin. Theo's turn yielding to whispered commands, trust's thrill amplifying every touch. Work's tide swelled. Elias's TEDx talk, filmed in a waterfront studio, went viral in niche circles. Clips shared on TikTok with queer Chicano art, invites pouring for panels in Portland and SF. Theo's shop thrived too, Waves displays boosting foot traffic, author events packing the backroom. Collaboration bloomed. Theo commissioning Elias for Raven's Nest murals. Walls blooming with intertwined ravens and waves in vibrant hues. Late nights in the studio, turpentine sharp, they'd paint side by side, smudges on cheeks, breaks dissolving into rug-tumbled passion, canvases forgotten. August brought conflict's underbelly. Rebecca's emails sharpened, Clara's rebellion escalating, school skips and late nights with a questionable crowd. "She idolizes you too," Rebecca wrote, "but needs stability. Theo, step up or step back." Theo confided over waterfront burritos, face drawn. "I want this fatherhood for real. But what if I'm the glitch in her code?" Elias massaged temples. "Steady. You're the upgrade. We'll co-parent, not compete." A mediated call followed, voices strained but civil, boundaries drawn. Theo's overnights increasing, therapy for Clara folded in. Elias's own tempests brewed internally. A LA gallery offer tempted solo show in Echo Park, lucrative but uprooting. "It's home," he told Theo during a trail run in Discovery, breaths ragged. "But your horizon." Theo halted, sweat sheened. "Go if it calls. I'll hold the loft, not chains." Decision agonized, Elias opting hybrid. Exhibit yes, base Seattle. The compromise tested, arguments flaring over time zones. "You're half gone already," Theo vented. "Building us a bigger world." Elias countered. Makeup was volcanic, bodies slamming against studio walls, frustration fueling frenzy, release in tangled limbs and tear-streaked vows. September's equinox aligned stars. Wedding plans solidified. Small ceremony on Orcas Island, cabin venue with waterfront views. Officiant a queer Unitarian from Theo's network. Invites hand-lettered by Elias, seals stamped with anchors. Rosa sewed boleros embroidered with ravens. Manuel practiced toasts in broken English. Clara, blooming under structure, designed programs, watercolor waves crashing into books. Rehearsal weekend unfolded idyllic. Ferry to the island, kin arriving in waves. Wyatt's RSVP surprised, solo, as friend. Met with Elias's nod. Waters under bridge. Dinner at the inn crackled with stories. Rosa regaling tamale heists from youth. Theo's dad, long estranged, now thawing, sharing Oregon fishing yarns. Laughter bridged gaps, nerves alchemizing to joy. Ceremony dawned mist-shrouded, sun burning through by vows. Elias in linen suit, Buello tie with turquoise, Theo in tweed vest, pocket square folded crisp. Guest sparse but soul deep. Lena strumming guitar, Marcus bearing readings from Rumi. Clara walked Theo down aisle, arm looped proud. Vows poured authentic. Elias's, "You saw my fractures," built bridges. Not over, but through. Theo's in your stories, I found mine. Interwoven, indelible. Rings exchanged. Gold now, engraved now and always. Kiss sealing amid cheers. Rain holding breath. Reception spilled to deck. Tables laden with fusion feast. Carnitas tacos, Theo's clam chowder, cake layered guava and lavender. Dances swirled. Cumbia with Rosa. Slow sway to At Last with Theo. Bodies pressed close. Whispers of futures. Wyatt approached post-toast. Glass raised. To anchors holding true. Elias clinked. Grace extended. Storms pass. Glad you're steady. Honeymoon whispered next. Backpacking in the Cascades. Tents under alpine glow. Days summiting ridges. Nights firelit confessions. Dreams of kids beyond Clara. A hybrid family blending blood and chosen. Elias sketched vistas. Theo journaled verses. Love's language evolving. October returned them changed. Rings catching light like beacons. Waves sequel outlined. Exhibit unpacked in LA Triumph. Sold pieces funding adoption consultations. Clara's custody formalized. Theo's face alight at school pickups. Betrayal's ghost. Vanquished to prologue. Sacrifice's lesson. Love as verb, active, enduring. As leaves turned, Elias traced Theo's palm by lamplight, lines mapping shared path. The title's query, resounding yes, love, multiplied, a saga of compassion's quiet revolution. In Seattle's arms, they thrived, free, fused, forever. November's veil descended gentle on the Pacific Northwest, fog weaving through evergreens like lace as Elias Rivera and Theo Langford navigated the ferry's deck toward the mainland. Wedding bands cool against skin warmed by shared mugs of cider. Orcas Island receded, a green jewel in gray waters, honeymoon's afterglow lingering in sun-kissed freckles, and the faint ache of summit trails. Back in Seattle, life's reel resumed, studio sessions for Elias's LA exhibit prep, Theo's shop buzzing with holiday pre-orders. But the union's gravity shifted everything. Decisions waited with we, silences brimming with us. The LA show, Echoes of Anchor, demanded descent south. Elias flew mid-month, suitcase stuffed with stretched canvases. Theo seeing him off at SeaTac with a kiss that tasted of reluctance and release. Slay, husband, Theo murmured. The word new, delicious. Echo Park's gallery thrummed opening night. Stucco walls hung with tide's companions. Figures adrift in bioluminescent seas. Chicano saints reimagined as queer navigators. Crowds swelled. Old LA friends from community college days. Rosa beaming in selvage jeans. Manuel nursing a Modelo in corner. Sales eclipsed expectations. A major piece to a collector who whispered, "This heals." Elias's TEDx clip screened on loop, amplifying buzz. Yet solitude amplified echoes. Nights in Rosa's guest room. Tacos devoured over talks of grandkids. Clara first, then bio? Elias missed Theo's bulk beside him. The loft's creaks. Calls bridged. Theo's voice tinny over line. Recounting Clara's latest. First queer crush confessed over bookstore pie. She's brave. Like her uncle. Homesickness crested third week. Elias cutting short for Thanksgiving. Vespa idling at SeaTac arrivals. Theo's hug crushed. Clara piling on. Missed your sketches, Eli. Holiday table groaned familial. Rosa's turkey fused with mole. Theo's cranberry relish tart. Manuel's toast slurred sentimental. To sons, blood and bookish. Drawing chuckles, tears. Post-feast walks cleared fog. Clara looping arms. Wedding was epic. My turn someday? Elias ruffled blue hair. When you're ready, kiddo. Love's no rush. Winter solstice approached. Raven's Nest transformed Wonderland. Trees trimmed with vintage ornaments. Readings of the night circus drawing crowds. Elias curated a hitched and hitched display. Queer memoirs beside his waves. Theo emceeing with drawl-honed charm. Backstage, amid boxes, they'd steal moments. Theo pinning Elias to shelving, mouths hungry, hands mapping under sweaters. My famous author, Theo growled, nipping earlobe. Elias's retort a gasp. My insatiable curator. January thawed resolutions. Adoption process accelerated. Home visits with social workers appraising the loft, bookshelves childproofed. Clara's room painted teal. Theo's nerves jangled. What if they see the mess? Divorced dad, late bloomer? Elias steadied. They see love's evidence. Approval came swift, matching underway. Profiles poured over, hearts tugged by tiny faces. A toddler boy, Mateo, Mexican heritage, toddler mischief, emerged frontrunner. Visits began tentative. Park playdates, Mateo's giggles melting Theo's reserve, Elias pushing swings with paternal ease. Spring's promise bloomed with trials. Book tour for Waves paperback pulled Elias eastward, NYC readings in indie havens, Boston panels on Lading Slit. Jet lag frayed, calls with Theo strained by time zones. Clara's acting out, tests missed. Theo vented. Elias, distant. Wish I could hold you both. Guilt gnawed. Peeking in a Chicago hotel, Elias videoing Mateo's latest photo. Chubby fists clutching blocks. He's ours, Theo said, eyes fierce. Return fortified resolve. Tour truncated. Priorities realigned. Clara's tempest crested May. Rebellion peaking in a school suspension. Pierced lip and midnight wanderings. Family summit convened, Rebecca tearful, Theo firm, Elias mediating. We're team, he urged. Boundaries with love. Therapy intensified. Clara's journal shared in fragments. Fears of impermanence. Dad's phase haunting. Breakthrough came lakeside picnic. Clara voicing. You're solid now. With Eli. Teach me that. Hugs healed. Lip ring winking forgiveness. Mateo's placement finalized June. Paperwork a blur of signatures. Court day dawned nerve-wrung. Judge's gavel sealing brotherhood. Homecoming parade. Clara decorating the Vespa with streamers. Theo cradling Mateo wide-eyed at the troll. Nights blurred sleepless. Diapers, lullabies and bilingual. Elias rocking while Theo brewed midnight coffee. Joy-laced exhaustion. Mateo's first steps toward dada. Dual cheers echoing. Summer solstice marked year one wedded. Anniversary hike to their Olympic spot. Mateo in backpack carrier gurgling at ferns. Picnic unpacked. Paella redux. Rings refastened with vows renewed. Through squalls, Theo toasted. To auroras, Elias chimed. Night fell star-strewn. Tent a haven. Mateo between dreaming safe. Fall's harvest yielded fruits. Waves sequel drafted. Mateo toddling amid studio paints. Wyatt's occasional cards, neutral, Portland life updates. Faded to footnotes. Betrayal's lesson endured. Love as ecosystem, nurturing all. As December twinkled, family expanded. Rosa visiting. Mateo in her arms cooing abuela. Tree trimming at the loft. Clara hanging ornaments. Theo spinning tales of solstice sprites. Elias watched, heart full. From sacrifices ash, Phoenix family risen. The queries echo, eternal yes, love, layered infinite, compassion's creed. In Seattle's verdant heart, Elias thrived, bound, boundless, beautifully again.